Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another X for Six. We are at, ladies and gentlemen, episode 17 of season 4. But, ladies and gentlemen, this is Rivalry Weekend. We have a lot of games slated up for you guys on the Friday schedule that is coming out. We got Friday games and Saturday games that are going to have huge implications to the college football playoffs. It's the week where you don't like that school so much that you just can't stand those colors when you see your rival walk across the street. Anytime you see it, you'd be like, ugh, it's that school that we just do not like. That's the passion of Rivalry Weekend, ladies and gentlemen. These where records don't matter. It's just a rivalry record. Everyone feels like it's 0-0 and it's start of a new season. But that's how big the implications of these rivalry games are. There's in-state games between regular school, like as example, Arizona versus Arizona State. But then you have stuff that's across state lines where you got Michigan and Ohio State in the game. So you have a lot of things coming in full circle, ladies and gentlemen. But also some of these games have playoff implications depending on how they end up shaking out. But we got to remind you guys, we had a fantastic week last week. We ended up going 5-1, very beautiful for our picks. And that improves our record for season 4, ladies and gentlemen, to 57, 37, and 1, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great way to start to wrap up season 4 of 6 for 6 as we start getting ready for the new year. We got, like I said, a couple more weeks with the college football playoffs wrapping up in there. But also, ladies and gentlemen, things that we have to do is get through Rivalry Weekend, which leads into Conference Championship Weekend. But some of these rivalry games will eliminate teams from Conference Championship play, and it will determine how the committee starts to start seeding teams for the 12-team playoff format in the coming weeks. And without further ado, let's get the show on the road. First up, ladies and gentlemen, we got Arizona, who's number 25 in the nation, versus Arizona State, who's number 20 in the nation. You can catch this game Friday, ladies and gentlemen, at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Time on Fox, ladies and gentlemen. Two, I would say, Big 12 schools going at it. Really no implications for playoffs for any of these teams, but it's trying to get a little bit closer for a better bowl bid for the most part. So no real playoff implications here for these two schools. I mean, even when we're looking at like the eye test between, the games that are something similar, Arizona has a good margin with the Houston game 31-28 when they ended up losing versus Arizona State to 24-16. But both schools will have a close matchup when you look at the spread between those points. But keep in mind, Arizona State beat Texas Tech, who's ranked 5 in the nation, in a close battle with 26-22. So I think this game is also going to be another close one, but I'm going to think Arizona State is going to win this one by a slim margin on this one, ladies and gentlemen. So give me Arizona State. You can catch Arizona, who's number 25 in the nation, versus Arizona State, number 20 in the nation. Friday Night Lights, baby. 9 p.m. Eastern Time and 6 p.m. Pacific Time on Fox. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we move into the 5th slot of 6 for 6. We got number 14 Vanderbilt versus 19 Tennessee. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time on ESPN, ladies and gentlemen. This is a key matchup for Vanderbilt. Winning saves their season, and for other top teams to lose, that might springboard them up. However, Tennessee is looking to play spoilers. They don't have a shot at the SEC title game. However, the thing that's looming large, why I like them to be a favorite in this matchup, is how they played Georgia earlier in the season, and they comes down the wire and goes in overtime. Their kicker misses that kick. If they make that kick, we'll be talking about Tennessee trying to get into the playoffs right about now. That's how close they were from getting to the playoffs. It was one play. All it takes is one play, and you're out of the playoffs sometimes. But Tennessee is looking, trying to get a good bowl game, but causing some havoc for Vanderbilt is going to be tough. And plus, Tennessee's at home. So Vanderbilt was at home in this one. I like Vanderbilt, but this is going to be a slim of a margin that I don't think you can leave it out. But we got to look at how fast Tennessee can score. We're using the eye test with Kentucky. Vanderbilt destroyed Kentucky 45-17. But if you look at Tennessee, it's 56-34. Tennessee has no defense. But that offense is so quick and can score on a poise, on a dime. They can just light up the scoreboard. That's what's going to make this game interesting. If there's no defense, we're going to see like a 45-42 type of victory between these two schools, or it's just going to be a runaway for Tennessee because they're just going to outpace Vanderbilt. So we're just going to see what Vanderbilt has to do. All Vanderbilt's doing is playing for their chance to get into the college football playoffs. And winning this will do it, but I think Tennessee will take care of business and spoil Vanderbilt's season, even though Vanderbilt has such a great year this year. But all great things come to an end. So you can catch number 14 Vanderbilt versus number 19 Tennessee Saturday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time on ESPN. And I got Tennessee winning this matchup. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, in the fourth slot, Miami, who's number 12 in the nation, versus Pitt, who's number 22 in the nation, noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time on ABC. Ladies and gentlemen, the ACC is on the verge of collapse, I would say. It's insane on how close this is. Pitt is sitting in basically almost number 2 for the ACC championship game. However, if Miami wins, things start to shift around. Georgia Tech is kind of locked in where it's at. Since they're playing Georgia, there's not going to be too much of a swing in the conference for them, so they're stuck at 8-2. But I think Miami has a way to knock Pitt. But Pitt wins and knocks out Virginia. You just eliminate so many ACC teams from this picture. And if Tulane gets up high enough, or another group of fives get high enough in this picture, you may leave out the ACC again, which is insane as it sounds, but they're not high enough to be a ranked conference champion. So definitely going to be a close one in this one. But like I said, we got to use the eye test in this one. We're looking at the Stanford game to play a key indicator. Stanford, Pitt won 35-20, but Miami destroyed Stanford 42-7. Miami has the better offense. Even you have NC State in the mix, where Miami won 41-7 and Pitt won 53-34. Like, Pitt just doesn't have a defense right now. Miami's just crunching down, locking down teams. But the thing that everyone's looking at is the Notre Dame scenario for Miami. They beat them early on the season, but it's not the same Notre Dame team from the beginning of the year where it's at now. So that's the key things that we're looking at right here. And Pitt got embarrassed to Notre Dame, 37-15. But it's going to be a very close one, but I think Miami takes care of business and wins this one convincingly, in a nice, convincing fashion. They just need a statement signature win going into conference championship weekend, and hoping that maybe Virginia loses along the way in this race for the ACC championship game. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you can catch Miami, who's number 12 in the nation, versus Pitt, number 22 in the nation. Saturday, noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time on ABC, and I have Miami winning it. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, in the third slot, we have Texas A&M versus Texas. This is going to be a very, very critical matchup in the SEC. Texas is playing, spoiler alert, and A&M's defense is getting on my last nerve. They can't get the job done. They are playing from behind against South Carolina, and they surge back, which is what their offense does. But their defense, oh my goodness, is keeping them close in the snare. If you look at Texas, they fluctuate a lot. They like playing games close. But when they lock in, they're a tough team to beat. They also came back, I believe, to Mississippi State in overtime. So they both had that bad victory, you want to call it. That kind of hurt them. But we'll see what happens. I think Texas is a better team, and A&M is going to get exposed, but it's going to be lights out, and it's going to be a high-scoring game, and it's going to be fun to watch at the 7:30 kickoff on the prime time in the state of Texas. All eyes of Texas will be watching this game, whether you're an A&M fan or a Texas fan or one of the other Texas schools. This game has large implications of what happens to A&M and the SEC championship game. Because if A&M loses, then I believe Georgia kind of gets into that picture a little bit. So SEC title games on the line. Georgia's rooting for Texas to pull up the upset. So we got to see what ends up shaking out, because at that point, Georgia will have like the tiebreaker because they beat up Texas and A&M lost. So that's the common opponent that will kind of get Georgia into the SEC title game. Then we get Georgia, Alabama in the SEC title game if Alabama survives the Iron Bowl. But I'm going to go with Texas to win this matchup. and gentlemen. So you can catch Texas A&M, who's number 3 in the nation, versus Texas, number 16 nation. Friday Night Lights, baby, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time on ABC, and I have Texas to win them. Hook 'em horns. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have Georgia Tech versus Georgia Tech's number 23 in the nation versus Georgia, who's number 4 in the nation. Friday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time on ABC. Georgia Tech has been having a fantastic year, but they had hiccups at the tail end of the season. But they had a great campaign. It sucks that they are so far down in the ACC right now and trying to dig their way back to a title shot at the ACC title game. However, ladies and gentlemen, this Georgia team has been trouncing teams, beating teams left and right. And it's just one of those things. They need that statement win to just hang in there and ride it out. Being that number 4 team in the nation definitely sits at I want to say, pretty slot. I want to make sure I have them ranked well on top of that. But let me get their ranking to be confirmed with that, ladies and gentlemen. And yep, Georgia is number 4 in the nation. I want to make sure I got that right because I know they were floating between like 5 and all that stuff. But, ladies and gentlemen, I like Georgia to win this one. I feel like it might be a close one because Georgia Tech ended up winning it last year, but it's going to be a game that has a large implication on top of that. So you can catch Georgia number 4 in the nation versus number 23, Georgia Tech, Friday afternoon, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time on ABC. Ladies and gentlemen, I got Georgia winning it. Let's do a quick recap, and I'll get you on ready to reveal the game of the week, but I feel like we all know what the game of the week is. So in the 6th slot, ladies and gentlemen, we got number 25 Arizona versus number 20 Arizona State, Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Time on Fox, and I have Arizona State winning it. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have number 14 Vanderbilt versus number 19 Tennessee, Saturday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time on ESPN. I got Tennessee winning it. After that, ladies and gentlemen, we got Miami, number 12 in the nation, versus Pitt, number 22 in the nation, noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time on ABC, and I have Miami winning this matchup. And the 3rd slot, ladies and gentlemen, we got Texas A&M, number 3 in the nation, versus Texas, number 16, Friday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time on ABC, and I got Texas winning it. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, in the 2nd slot, we got Georgia, number 4 in the nation, versus Georgia Tech, number 23 in the nation, Friday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time on ABC, ladies and gentlemen, and I have Georgia winning it. Now, time to reveal the game of the week, ladies and gentlemen. It is the game, Ohio State, number 1 in the nation, versus Michigan, number 15 in the nation. That's team up north. Saturday, noon Eastern Time, noon showdown, ladies and gentlemen. 9 a.m. Pacific Time on Fox. It is a big noon kickoff that has large implications for the Big Ten because what ends up happening is a crazy scenario. With Michigan, if Michigan beats Ohio State, if they do it, they need Oregon to lose to Washington. And with that, they get in. Or the other scenario is if Indiana loses to Purdue and they still have to beat Ohio State, they'll get in. And that's an error. They just need Oregon to lose and beat Ohio State. They just need that to happen, and they are in the Big Ten championship game and possibly a shot at the college football playoffs. Now, if they lose, well, I would say if they lose, their season's done. But if they beat Ohio State and Oregon wins, you get another Big Ten team in the college football playoffs. That's how crazy that is. So it's like you want that scenario for the Big Ten bias to get 4 teams in the mix in that scenario, to have a nice little melting pot of the 12-team playoffs. And that's almost like, what, 33% of the field is Big Ten play, which is pretty nice if you ask me. But you don't want that rival to win since I'm an Ohio State fan. You don't want your rival to win. But, ladies and gentlemen, it has large implication for the Big Ten championship game, and a lot of things are at stake. Ohio State's offense just gets on my nerves. It's just so slow. If they play from behind, I don't know how they're going to respond. Last year, we had the best offense in the country, and then we lose to a 7-5 Michigan team. Like, you don't know what you're going to get from this game, the implications, the weather, and all that stuff. Huge factors on top of that. but Michigan loves to drive it out. They like to play it as it is. They just want to play good Big Ten football and grind you down and beat you down. They just gonna run the ball at you, play good defense, load the box, and just shut you down. That's how they play. Basically, almost smash mouth football in that most point. But Ohio State is the better team in this scenario. But if Ohio State offense starts to struggle and it's close, I think Michigan will find a way to hang around long enough to give them that momentum swing to get it help. And plus, they're home too. And you got the streak on the line too. Huge games, big life, Big Ten. Welcome to Big Ten football, ladies and gentlemen, at its finest. But we'll see what happens. I have Ohio State winning it. You can catch Ohio State #1 in the nation versus Michigan #15 in the nation. Saturday, noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific time on Fox, ladies and gentlemen. With that, let's do a quick recap and we'll get you on out of here so you can enjoy your college football rivalry weekend where we just don't like those schools and those different colors compared to what we wear, especially during rivalry week. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get a quick recap and get you on out of here. In the sixth slot, we got number 25, Arizona versus Arizona State, number 20 in the nation. Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Pacific time on Fox, ladies and gentlemen. And I have Arizona State winning it. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have number 14, Vanderbilt versus number 19, Tennessee. 3:30 p.m. Eastern time, 12:30 p.m. Pacific time on ESPN. And I have Tennessee winning this matchup. And the fourth slot, ladies and gentlemen, we have Miami, number 12 in the nation, versus Pitt, number 22 in the nation. Saturday, noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific time on ABC. And I have Miami winning this matchup. And we have in the third slot, ladies and gentlemen, let me sneeze real. We have Texas A&M, who's number 3 in the nation, versus Texas, number 16 in the nation. Friday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, 4:30 p.m. Pacific time on ABC. And I have Texas winning this matchup. And the second slot, we have number 4 Georgia versus number 23 Georgia Tech. Friday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time, 12:30 p.m. Pacific time on ABC. And I have Georgia winning this matchup. And ladies and gentlemen, the game of the week. It's the game which makes it perfect for this to cap off the regular season for 6 for 6 for college football as we get ready for conference championship weekend. Number 1 Ohio State versus number 15 Michigan. Noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific time on Fox, ladies and gentlemen. And I have Ohio State winning this matchup. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, our record from last episode was 5-1, which was great. And hopefully we get another 6 for 6 here in the season, which would be a historical. Having 2 correct 6 for 6 picks and 1 season of 6 for 6 would be beautiful to have, ladies and gentlemen. Adding more history to our show and the channel as a whole. So we're going to keep striving for that. So that's with that. And our record for season 4, ladies and gentlemen, is 57, 37, and 1. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of 6 for 6. And we'll catch you next week for conference championship play. See you all, and catch you next week. So long for now. Bye-bye.